I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes.
Yeah.
But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given. But, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat.
The basketball world is officially on fire. The legendary Cheryl Miller has just broken her silence. And folks, she said the quiet part out loud, the part that millions of fans have been screaming about for months. According to her, Team USA never actually wanted Caitlin Clark. And the Hall of Famer didn't just hint at it. She laid out exactly why, in excruciating detail. Within minutes of her words hitting the airwaves, the entire internet absolutely exploded. Cheryl didn't just offer an opinion. She exposed the dirty politics, the simmering jealousy, and what she sees as a deliberate, calculated campaign to keep Caitlin Clark in her place. This is the brutal, unfiltered reality check that the establishment desperately needed, and one that fans have been waiting for. But before we dive deep into Cheryl's absolutely explosive comments, I have to ask you, drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you honestly believe Team USA is deliberately trying to hold Caitlin back and sabotage her rise? Or do you think this is all just a series of unfortunate coincidences? I seriously need to hear your take on this because it's a debate raging everywhere.
Sky's the limit for her. To be around her, just talk about the type of person she is and how much she loves the game.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a Black woman and hated because of my
skin.
color.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Confident.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. And I was pleased and proud.
Let's be crystal clear about how this went down, because the narrative some are trying to spin just isn't what happened. Cheryl Miller didn't whisper her concerns. She didn't dance around the subject or use that carefully crafted, corporate-approved language designed to avoid ruffling any feathers. No, she grabbed a microphone, went on the record, and said precisely what millions of basketball fans have been screaming into the digital void for what feels like an eternity. Caitlin Clark, she argued, is being deliberately held back by the very people, the very institutions that should be lifting her up and celebrating her. And you have to understand, when a titan like Cheryl Miller speaks, the entire world of basketball stops and listens. This isn't some random talking head on a sports show trying to generate clicks with a hot take. This is a basketball icon, a certified Hall of Famer, a legend who knows exactly what it feels like to be the biggest name in the women's game and to face resistance for that very reason. Her words were direct, sharp, and absolutely devastating. She said, and I quote, "Caitlin Clark changed basketball, and that is exactly why they fear her." Just let that statement sink in for a moment. Not that they're jealous of her, though that's probably part of it. Not that they don't understand her impact. No, the word she used was fear. They fear her. They fear what she represents. They fear the dizzying speed of her rise to global stardom. They fear that she didn't follow their sacred script or dutifully come up through their pre-approved system. And perhaps, most importantly, they fear that she has already become bigger than the institution itself.
You recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
Think about it. From day one of her professional career, what did Caitlin Clark bring to women's basketball? She brought something the sport has been desperately lacking for years. Genuine, mainstream, can't-miss attention. We're talking about television ratings that leagues and networks can only dream about. She brought completely sold-out arenas, not just at home but on the road, everywhere she went. She brought entire families, people who had literally never watched a single WNBA game in their lives, who were suddenly tuning in, buying tickets, and getting jerseys, all just to see for themselves what all the hype was about. In a matter of weeks, she single-handedly made women's basketball appointment viewing for millions upon millions of people. And what was her reward for this unprecedented impact? What did she get in return from the league and its players? A relentless barrage of hard fouls with little to no consequences. She got suspicious and frankly bizarre coaching rotations where she'd be inexplicably benched at the most crucial moments of a game. She received zero protection from officials when opponents were very clearly and openly targeting her. We all saw the infamous elbow incident, a blatant cheap shot that somehow, inexplicably, wasn't even considered a flagrant foul. And to top it all off, a never-ending stream of excuses. Excuse after excuse after excuse from the people who should have been protecting their biggest asset.
The fact that if I'm insecure, if I've got my own mental issues going on, who do I talk to? I don't regret being born when I was.
Right.
I'm in the right place at the right time. It's just been fascinating to watch these young ladies come up and now take the baton and take it to a different level.
She handled it in a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
And that's when Cheryl Miller finally stepped up and said what nobody inside the Team USA bubble or the WNBA front office had the courage to admit publicly. They don't want Caitlin, she explained, because she completely overshadows everyone else. This wasn't her speculating or just reading between the lines. Cheryl laid it out as plain as day. It's a tale as old as time. Every single time a young, dynamic superstar emerges and threatens the established hierarchy, every time someone becomes bigger than the very system that is supposed to contain them, that system instinctively pushes back. She explained it's not even personal, it's institutional. It's a self-preservation mechanism. And Caitlin Clark didn't just become big at 22 years old. She became the global face of basketball almost overnight. That right there is the threat. That's what makes the old guard deeply uncomfortable. And according to Cheryl, this isn't just her opinion. This is a diagnosis based on years of behavior she has witnessed firsthand throughout her own career and continues to see play out today. The pattern, she says, is maddeningly consistent. Team USA, just like so many other established, powerful organizations, operates with a very specific hierarchy. There's a pecking order. Rookies are expected to pay their dues, stay quiet, and wait their turn. Veterans get the preferential treatment and the benefit of the doubt. You are supposed to earn your spot gradually, climbing the ladder rung by rung through their system. But Caitlin, she didn't climb the ladder, she took a rocket ship straight to the top, blowing past all of that. She arrived on the scene already famous, already influential, and already carrying more cultural weight and significance than players who had been in the league for over a decade. That kind of meteoric rise violently disrupts the natural order. And as we all know, disruption makes powerful people very, very defensive.
In a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard, right?
And I used and Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given. But look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Then Cheryl pointed out something absolutely crucial, a dynamic that many fans have noticed but couldn't quite put their finger on. The politics of Team USA are inextricably connected to the same political games we see playing out every night in the WNBA. Favoritism is real. Power circles and cliques are real. Veteran loyalty, which sometimes borders on blind allegiance, is very real. There are unspoken, inside politics that often determine who gets the big opportunities and who gets left behind. And in that kind of environment, there's very little room for a brand new star who wasn't built, molded, and controlled by their system. Think about it. Caitlin wasn't developed through the USA basketball youth programs. She didn't come up through their official pipeline. She didn't follow their predetermined, carefully managed path to stardom. She exploded onto the scene from Iowa, bringing her own massive, pre-existing fan base with her own blinding spotlight already shining, and her own powerful narrative already written. That reality threatened the people who were used to being the sole authors and controllers of those narratives. And here is where Cheryl really dropped the hammer. She alleged that Team USA had already made up their mind about Caitlyn months before any official roster discussions even happened. The game plan, she claims, was clear from the very beginning: protect the veterans, keep the old guard positioned as the face of the program, and under no circumstances do you let the newcomer get the keys to the kingdom. Caitlyn Clark was never going to be welcomed with open arms. Instead, she was going to be managed, controlled, kept quiet, and handled like a problem that needed solving, rather than being embraced as a generational talent that should be celebrated. But Caitlyn didn't play by those unspoken political rules. She just played basketball, the exact same way the entire world fell in love with her. And that's precisely when things got so complicated for the leadership of Team US. Cheryl then exposed what she believes is their real deepest fear. They were absolutely terrified that Caitlyn would become the undisputed star of Team USA before the Olympics even started. Just pause and think about that for a second. A 22-year-old player potentially outdrawing 10-year veterans in ratings, media attention, and fan interest. A single athlete generating more buzz, more viral highlights, and more global discussion than the entire rest of the roster combined. We're talking more social media engagement, more merchandise sales, more mainstream media coverage. Team USA wasn't ready for that new reality, and their rigid system certainly wasn't designed to accommodate. So instead of embracing this incredible opportunity and building the program around their most marketable, popular, and talented player, they pushed back. And the fans, well, they noticed everything. The cold, dismissive body language from certain teammates, the bizarre and nonsensical player rotations that made no basketball sense whatsoever, the constant, unnecessary hard fouls that either went uncalled or were ridiculously labeled as common fouls when they were obviously flagrant. They saw the constant, nitpicking criticism for things that other players were actively praised for doing. The double standards were so glaring they were simply impossible to ignore. Cheryl then said something that hit like a punch to the gut. You don't treat the most impactful young player in basketball like this unless you're trying to send a message. And what exactly is that message? Stay in your lane. Know your place. Don't climb too fast. Don't you dare outshine the people we've already decided are supposed to be the faces of this program. Don't disrupt the hierarchy we have spent years carefully building. But Caitlyn just kept climbing anyway. Every game seemed to bring another unbelievable performance. Every ridiculous shot from 30 feet out that somehow swished through the net. Every brilliant no-look pass that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Every single sold-out arena chanting her name. Every viral highlight that completely dominated social media for days on. And each time she rose higher, the resistance from within the system only intensified. Cheryl revealed what so many had suspected, but few with a platform would dare say publicly: Caitlyn Clark is being punished for being great. Not for being difficult, not for being problematic, not for breaking rules or causing locker room drama. She's being punished for being undeniably, historically, generationally great at the game of basketball. And that level of greatness makes people uncomfortable when it doesn't fit neatly into their predetermined plans. Millions of fans felt this in their bones throughout the entire season. Parents watching at home with their kids felt it. Young girls who look up to Caitlyn as a role model felt it. Even NBA players started noticing and tweeting about the obvious targeting and the shocking lack of protection from officials. But no one from inside the system, no one with the unimpeachable credibility and platform of Cheryl Miller, had actually said it out loud so forcefully until now. That's precisely what makes this moment so incredibly significant. Then, Cheryl addressed the jersey number controversy, which on the surface seems petty, but in reality represents something much deeper. She stated that Team USA handled it horribly. Instead of having a simple, respectful conversation with Caitlyn about the situation, Instead of making her feel valued and finding a collaborative solution that worked for everyone, they made it look like she was being difficult for wanting something every athlete wants: consistency and respect. They made her feel like an inconvenience, as if she was causing problems by having the audacity to care about the number she's worn her entire career, a number that has become synonymous with her global brand. And that's the moment when fans absolutely lost their minds, and rightfully so, because it confirmed what they had been seeing all along. This was never about logistics or policies or standard procedures. This was about putting Caitlyn in her place. It was about reminding her that she doesn't run things, they do. It was about asserting control over someone who had become too powerful, too quickly, and Cheryl called it out for exactly what it was: a petty power play. The third bombshell Cheryl dropped was that Team USA was apparently divided internally about Clark. Some coaches desperately wanted her on the roster, recognizing her immense value. Others didn't want her taking the spotlight away from the established players. Some teammates supported her and welcomed the incredible attention she brought to the sport. Others openly resented the media focus being on one person instead of the collective. Some executives loved the ratings boost and the new sponsorship interest. Others hated the disruption and preferred the program to operate quietly the way it always had. A divided room, a rising superstar, and a massive, inescapable spotlight created the perfect storm for dysfunction. This wasn't about basketball anymore. This was pure, unadulterated politics. And Cheryl's voice reportedly cracked with emotion when she said, "Caitlyn Clark plays the game the right way, and she is being punished for it." That single line resonated across the entire basketball community because it so perfectly captured the absurdity and the profound injustice of the situation. Here you have a player who does everything you could possibly want. She works incredibly hard. She makes her teammates better. She handles her media responsibilities with professionalism and grace. She shows up ready to compete every single game. She doesn't create off-court drama. She represents the sport beautifully on a global stage. And somehow, she's the one being treated like a problem. Cheryl emphasized that this toxic pattern extended far beyond just the Team USA decisions. This was about the entire season. The hard fouls that never resulted in suspensions for the offenders. The shoves that were laughably called incidental contact when they were clearly intentional. The targeting that officials somehow never seemed to notice despite it being painfully obvious to everyone watching on TV. The disrespect from opponents who felt emboldened to take cheap shots because they knew there would be no real consequence. The thinly veiled jealousy that manifested in passive-aggressive comments during post-game interviews. The fake narratives about her being overrated or only successful because of favorable officiating or weak competition. And through all of it, a deafening silence from the people in positions of power who should have spoken up to defend her. The WNBA didn't protect her adequately. Team USA didn't prioritize her. Certain media members actively tried to diminish her historic accomplishment. And Cheryl Miller watched all of this unfold and finally decided that enough was enough. Someone with real credibility needed to call it what it was. Someone who understood the complex politics of women's basketball from the inside needed to expose the truth. What makes Cheryl's comments so potent is that she's been where Caitlyn is now. In her era, she was the biggest name in women's basketball. She faced her own version of resistance, jealousy, and people trying to keep her in her place. She understands the unique, crushing pressure that comes with being the face of an entire sport. She knows what it feels like when your own success makes other people deeply uncomfortable. And she made it clear she is not going to stay silent while she watches history repeat itself with Caitlyn Clark. Cheryl also addressed the broader context that many casual fans might not fully grasp. She talked about how vastly different the pressure is for this generation compared to when she played. The relentless social media scrutiny, the brand responsibilities, the massive financial expectations, the constant public commentary from millions of strangers, the immense mental health challenges of being under a microscope. She said that today's players are dealing with a level of pressure her generation never had to navigate. And that reality makes what Caitlyn has accomplished even more impressive. But instead of that pressure being acknowledged and support being provided, Caitlyn faced additional, artificial obstacles that were completely unnecessary and entirely political. Cheryl made it unequivocally clear that the resistance Caitlyn encountered had nothing to do with her ability or her character. It was purely about powerful people protecting their positions, maintaining their control, and flat out refusing to adapt to a changing landscape where a new star had emerged who was bigger and more popular than they were comfortable with. The reaction to Cheryl's comments was immediate, and it was massive. Social media platforms exploded with people expressing a profound sense of relief that finally someone with real credibility was validating what they had been thinking and feeling for months. Former players started speaking up, sharing their own observations that confirmed Cheryl's points. Media members who had previously been hesitant to rock the boat suddenly felt more comfortable discussing the obvious politics at play. And the fans, who had felt gaslit for months, being told they were crazy or making things up when they pointed out the targeting and disrespect, finally felt validated. In the wake of this firestorm, Team USA officials have been noticeably and tellingly quiet, which speaks volumes in itself. When a legend of Cheryl Miller's stature makes allegations this serious, you would expect an immediate, forceful, and detailed denial if they weren't true. The prolonged silence suggests there's a significant amount of truth to what she's saying, and they're likely scrambling behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to manage the public relations catastrophe without actually admitting fault. So there you have it. Cheryl Miller said what needed to be said, and the basketball world is still reeling from the fallout. Caitlin Clark deserves so much better than the treatment she's received, and thanks to a legend speaking truth to power, now everyone knows it. If you appreciate someone finally having the courage to call it like it is, do me a favor and smash that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more honest basketball coverage. Now I want to hear from you again. What's your honest reaction to Cheryl's bombshell comment? Drop it in the comments below.